All right, everybody. So, God, the Great Iconoclast. So, earlier in the week, I posted a quote by C.S. Lewis, and he referred to God as the Great Iconoclast, the one who continually smashes the ideas in our head that we have of who he actually is. And so, when we tackle this difficult topic, how do we explain the unexplainable? How do we make sense of the ineffable? How do we know the unknowable? And so we're going to do our best to try to cover this challenging topic today. And so the quote by C.S. Lewis, he says, "My ideas of God are not divine ideas. They need to be broken and smashed again and again. And it's God who does this. He is the great iconoclast. We get a little concept in our head and a little small picture of who the ineffable is, the omnipotent, and he has to smash that idol and get rid of that because it's not who he is. And then he reveals more of himself as a good father and as just an amazing God. And so C.S. Lewis said that this is a mark of his presence. The very fact that we continue to grow in revelation and to grow in understanding of who God is, and he gets bigger and bigger, not smaller, means that this is a mark of his presence. And so it's really challenging when we talk about this journey, but let's try to do our best. So when you think about Jesus, he came as the face of the Father. He said, "If you've seen me, you've seen the Father." And he came down into face to face with humanity. John said, our ears have heard, and our eyes have seen, and our hands have handled the word of life. We've touched it, and we've tasted it, and we've handled it, and we were with him. And so God came down to our lowest density. He met us exactly where we were at as human beings. He became human for us. And so that's amazing, and that's what he'll always do. He'll always meet us in our densities, but he doesn't leave us there. So when Jesus came down into the earth, he went into the very depths, the very lowest of matter, the very center and belly of the earth, and then he raised it back up, and he brought it ascended with it and raised it up with him in heavenly places. And so this is what this upward movement does. We know God, and we meet him in our densities, but then he doesn't leave us there. He continues to draw us upward, higher and higher, to where we really are and where he is. And so as we're on this journey upward, how do we pierce into the divine darkness? How do we pierce through the cloud of unknowing? Well, actually, just like that, we unknow and we unlearn. And this is what Pseudo-Dionysius talked about, is that as we go higher and higher up, we actually don't hold on. We actually let go. We actually unlearn and unknow. And this is one of those things that God as the iconoclast. But personally, I had this idea in my head of who God was, and it was more formulaic and transactional. And if I do everything right, this is the result, and this is the way I viewed God. And after dealing with some really hard times and through personal loss and all of that, that whole concept was whisked away. That whole belief system was smashed, and God didn't cause any of that, but he was inside of me, teaching me new things about him and revealing new stuff to him, or rather about him. And so when I realized that I was in fellowship with him and I was in union with God, then all of a sudden he started to disclose more and more about who he really is, how good he really is, how I could never be distant from him, how he experienced all of my hurt and all of my loss with me. And it totally radically smashed the idol, the framework that I had in my mind of who God is. And so as we go upward, it's better to just have open hands. Actually, Pseudo-Dionysius said, he called it apophatic, which means we don't describe God by what he is. It's better to describe what he isn't, who he is not. And in that way, it leaves open more room for mystery. And so rather than saying that God is this, and this, and then when he wants to show us another element of him, but he doesn't fit into the little box we already made, we say, well, I know that God isn't this. And so then he continues to reveal more and more and more. And it ends up just being a deeper plunge into the ineffable, a deeper plunge into the mystery. And we just continue to grow in our understanding and revelation and all of that. And it doesn't mean that we do away with the forms. We don't just forget, all of the forms and the finite concepts and stuff that we have of God. Teresa of Avila says, no, those are the actual divine sparks that in our humanity that draw us forward, that make us fall in love and draw us deeper and deeper into the mystery. And so that we don't get rid of them. No, those are not obstacles. They actually propel us forward. And it's almost like John in the book of Revelation. He says, I saw one like the Son of Man, but his hair was white as snow, and his eyes were, all of this whole new description. And that's the Jesus I know. That's the same Jesus I know, but now I see him glorified and ascended and transcended and all of this stuff. And he had this wild revelation. And so as we continue upward, we just let go. And we allow God to teach us about who he is. And the Bible says that we have fellowship with the mystery. We're in union with the mystery. And what that means is, because it's mystery, it doesn't mean that we can't understand God or we can't know God. Actually, Richard Rohr says it means that we can understand God endlessly, and we can understand God eternally. And so we have fellowship with this amazing God. We have fellowship with this mystery. And when we just open our hands and allow him to disclose himself to us, we can pierce through the cloud of unknowing and pierce into the divine darkness and be drawn deeper and deeper into the plunge of God, the free fall into God and into the divine mystery. God bless.